Hello again, and welcome to another reading from Bedtime Stories for Grown-Ups with me, Cool Swords. Now, as I'm sure you're getting used to at this stage, I'm going to ask you to do a couple of things before we begin. So, would you please plug in your phone and begin to charge it, and also set your alarm clock if it's separate from your mobile. Also, I've been asked to ask you all to remember to brush your teeth before you go to bed. It's important that you keep good dental hygiene, or else you'll be like this and trying to read a story to your children at some stage. So don't let that happen. Go brush your teeth now. Come back. I'll be still here. I'm not going anywhere. And then your mouth will be minty fresh and you'll be ready to listen to the story and go fast asleep. Okay, so I'm going to take it that you've done that now. We'll begin. So this story is called The Troll and His Battle with Discrimination. Once upon a time there was a troll called Scumweed who always seemed to be getting in trouble. He had a mouth full of higgledy-piggledy teeth and knotted hair that had never known conditioner or 2-in-1 shampoo. He was bristly like a wire brush or a cactus, and his eyes were small and looked like they knew a lot but would give away nothing. Whenever he went into town, he was always having to carry his troll cards because he was stopped constantly and asked to produce identification. Some days he could hardly get down the street, such were the number of requests to show his papers. He bore it to the best of his ability, but nothing seemed to change, and so his patience was always close to breaking. But he knew one outburst was all it would take for the authorities to banish him from the town to live out his days under a bridge collecting tolls for the town elders. He would have to spend his days trying to explain to scared goats that he didn't wish to eat them, but was simply carrying out the orders of the authorities in requesting they pay the due amount for passage through into the town. But you see, Scumweed wanted more from life than to be a toll collector. It wasn't the work per se he disagreed with, but the way one landed the job, or how it landed on you, and of course the grass ceiling that stopped trolls from ever rising above the position of collector. No, it wasn't the work per se, but being sentenced to a life under a squalid bridge where the waste of the town always seemed to settle. For generations, trolls had been given one of two options when they acted up and demanded better treatment. 1, go under the bridge as a collector, or 2, work in the town's refuge department and keep the streets clean by eating whatever god-awful mess you came across. Neither were appetizing. But the first would at least, the first would lead to a life of boredom, punctuated with charges of harassment and accusations of attempted goat murder. And the second, well, that meant eating shit until your digestive system couldn't handle it anymore and you keeled over and farted your last breath before expiring. One day, Scumweed was invited by a friend to a talk on troll history. He usually didn't go to meetings or talks. It was always the same type of trolls, and then a few sympathizing townspeople who professed to be terribly upset about the treatment of trolls. Maybe they were upset. But at least they could go home afterwards and not wake up the next day knowing they had to eat their weight in excrement. They always spoke of how many letters they were writing on the behalf of trolls, but all the paper in the world wouldn't be enough to change the town's mind. At least that's what Scumweed's friend always said, which made it more surprising that his friend invited him to the talk. His curiosity piqued, Scumweed decided he would go to the talk. And when he arrived, his friend came over and gave him a huge hug. His friend was close to tears. Could hardly say a word. He just kept rubbing Scumweed's shoulder and putting his arm around the surprised troll. You see, this friend wasn't usually the touchy-feely type. So Scumweed asked if everything was okay, and his friend told him not to worry and that everything would work out in the end. The friend then went to the front of the crowd, climbed the steps of the stage, went behind the curtain, and soon came back out dripping of liquid. He then lit a match off the stage floor and dropped it next to him and burst into flames. The crowd screamed and shouted. Some of them tried to get on the stage to help the troll, but others were simply trying to get away from the stage and run for the exits. Scumweed ran to his friend and helped another troll cover the flaming body in a curtain. Just then, the police marched in. They must have been tipped off. They started gathering up people and throwing them out of the room and into troll wagons waiting in the streets. Scumweed wrestled 2 officers off his back as he tried to comfort his friend, but soon there were too many and he was dislodged from the scene and thrown into the back of a van. Well, the next day he was hauled up in front of the town elders and told he was guilty of assaulting officers of the law and he would be sent to the bridge furthest from town. He wasn't allowed to speak in his defence, and by the end of the week he was under the bridge. He would call hell for the next 3 years. Oh Lord, every day was the same. He encountered a goat and requested they pay the toll. Most either didn't understand him or else pretended they didn't, and so a series of hand gestures were employed until the toll was paid or the hands got tired, and a swift kick in the traveller's posterior substituted for the failing arms. Sometimes a goat would try and sneak around the bridge and go through a shallow part of the river, but Scumweed was vigilant even, not vigilant, that's not a word, and would apprehend them and ordered them to pay the toll and a fine too. Most of them did as asked, and those that didn't were held under the bridge until a town elder came on their weekly rounds and took the fee-dodging goat to a farm, where they would pay off their debt by being forced to provide milk and cheese for the town. Scumweed got into a great many confrontations with these goats, and sometimes when a particularly troublesome one was hauled off, he sighed with relief. But deep down, he knew he was being used to keep another creature down, and for what? So the elders could drink their fill of goat's milk and stuff their faces with cheese? He was being used, and he knew it. He resolved that it wouldn't continue indefinitely. It was around this time that a fiery young goat started to hang about close to the bridge. He would never cross over to where Scumweed sometimes sat, or try dash across when Scumweed was under the bridge. The young goat would just watch, and sometimes talk to the goats before they crossed over themselves, or watched angry as another goat was hauled off to the farm. One day, Scumweed he was bored, as I said, there's feck all to do here. One day, Scumweed was bored and shouted to the young goat and asked him what he was doing all these days standing out about close to the bridge. The goat said he was trying to figure out a way across. The troll told him, in no uncertain terms, the only way across was by paying the toll or making cheese for the elders. The goat said he knew of another way. The troll laughed, but he was curious and inquired what way this might be. The goat said he would help the troll win his freedom and that of the other trolls. Well, again the troll laughed, but at the same time inquired a little further, because it sure beat the hell out of eating excrement or waiting with nothing much to do until the next moody goat came along and complained about the toll. The goat set out his plan, and Scumweed listened intently. The goat, who was from a long line of distinguished lawyers, had graduated top of his class the year before, and he had a photographic memory, was a skilled orator, and had seen off the challenge of many a debating team single-hoofedly. He was going to act as counsel to the troll and teach him how to win his rights. The pair studied day and night, gathering up evidence and preparing their case. Once it was as solid as they could make it, they filed their complaints against the elders in the town's court and waited until they were called upon. In the days that led up to the case, the elders visited Scumweed's bridge to pour derision on his efforts and give him additional menial chores, trying to break him in advance of the court date. Despite their efforts, Scumweed held out, and when the morning came for him to go to the court, he called his goat friend across the bridge. The goat smiled, pleased that he had gotten across the bridge without paying the toll. Scumweed looked at him, knowing full well why the goat smiled, and then turned to his friend and said he would milk the goat himself if they didn't win. The two laughed about this the whole way into town, because, well, frankly, they had done enough talking about the case, and there wasn't much else to do as they approached the court. Once the court was in session, the defence and the prosecution laid into each other in a verbal sparring that the court had not seen since it was asked to pass judgment on the prohibition of magic in the town. The defence spoke eloquently about the hierarchy of the town and how their prosperity lay in this ordering of society, but the prosecution was equal to the challenge and referred to the town's charter and several cases, some in living memory and others long gone, and proposed that the discriminatory practices of the age were doing as much to hinder prosperity as they were snuffing out the lives of many trolls and creating tensions amongst all the creatures of the town and the surrounding area. The judges went into deliberation, and time seemed to slow down. Eventually, after many nights had passed, a ruling was made. The trolls had borne a great injustice for many generations, and now it was time to repair the damage done. They were to be treated as equals, have access to education and the jobs the same as everyone else, and would not be made to work under bridges or eat shit unless they wanted to. Scumweed and his goat friend had won a great victory and would go on to set up a very successful law firm, and would see many more victories in the years to come, as well as large expense accounts at their disposal. And so they both lived happily ever after. The end.